Hi, my name is Jimmy Pitts of Fishing Florida Flats.
I'm Captain Mike Raven.
So today is how to catch bait. So basically you see it, we're going out, it's dark. This is the best time to catch bait. Why is it the best time to catch bait?
I like to be out there as soon as the sun cresses. I think when the sun's high, the bait gets skittish, birds, everything scares them at that point. You know, birds diving on them, so every kind of shadow out there scares the bait. So I think if you can catch them right at daybreak, you've got a better chance of
I always find that at daybreak I'm catching bigger baits, and when the sun comes up and it's blaring, it's harder to find the bait because they're buried into the seagrass. But we're going to go through what we do to catch bait, and we do this every time before a charter. So live bait is the best bait in my consideration. Don't you agree?
I totally agree, absolutely.
So we're going to go out, we're going to show you how we read the water, what we look for on the water, and how we chum up for bait to show them to come up, and we're going to cast net and bring in some bait. I will speak to you very soon. Alright, we're starting to look for the bait. Alright, we're checking our first spot. Basically what we're looking for is any ripples in the water. So that's the first thing we do, is we look for any ripples in the water, see what's going on. We see any disturbances in the water. If it's choppy out, it's a little more difficult, but if it's smooth out, it'll be better.
Yeah, we use Purina tropical fish food, and we mix water in it, like so we can create little balls out of it.
So basically what he's doing is he's not throwing in a ton of chum. He's basically throwing in bits and pieces to see if anything's going to start popping in the surface.
I usually go chum heavy when I first get to a spot. See if I can get them up on the surface and feeding. You'll know exactly where they are, and as soon as you start to see them, you really slow down. Usually throw about the size of a peanut M&M about every 15 to 20 seconds. We throw 10-foot nets. Most of us throw 10-foot nets. Some guys a little bit bigger, some guys a little bit smaller. But one thing you got to be careful about, depending on what time of year you're throwing a net. Usually early season we can get away. Everybody just throws a 3/8 net. But usually, generally towards late summer, this time of year, we got a lot of fry bait mixed in with that, so we have to drop down to a 1/4-inch mesh net. If not, your net's going to be full of fry bait.
How heavy is the net?
I throw a 1.6 ounces of weight per foot.
So basically what we're doing is we went to our first spot. We spent about 15-20 minutes there, didn't see a lot, so we came to a new spot. And we're throwing in some chum, and we're going to see what happens here. But we'll keep moving until we find the bait, because the bait moves all the time. So we'll try, we have about 5 spots that usually the bait's in. We'll hit all of them, and we won't spend a lot of time in one spot, so we don't waste time catching bait. So basically the bait's starting to pop. You'll see the little ripples in the water. So basically when we throw it in, you'll see them coming to the surface, and that's what we want to do. We want to draw them out of the grass beds. So basically we're going to do our first cast for the day and see what comes out. So we're looking for the right time to cast the net, so we're throwing chum out at the same time. So once the bait starts popping, we'll be able to catch them. Alright, we're going to go for our second throw to see how it comes out. So basically what we're doing is we're chumming up the water even more thicker to get them all excited. One of the important things about throwing a net is making sure there's no tangles in it, because if you have a tangle, once you throw it, it won't open up all the way.
People are chum too heavy and they'll never get the bait where they want it. Like right now on a day like today, we got an east wind with an incoming tide. So we're having to chum out the bow pretty good ways and have it drift back into here. Now if we were to chum too heavy that way, all the bait would be back behind the boat because that's the way the current is going, and then it'd never get to us. So I think after a while of doing this, you get the hang of it by reading the language of what the bait's doing, and you'll know how much to chum, if you're chumming
absolutely.
too heavy or too light, you know. But the main thing is, do not chum too heavy and let that bait get away. I mean, if you got chum just everywhere in the water, there's no reason for them to ever come up to you.
Yeah, because basically, don't forget, you only can throw the cast net so far. So if the bait's not in front of you, or at least close to you, you won't be catching it, because your bait, your chum and your bait is too far for you to catch. So watch the wind, the current, and see where the bait is and see where your chum is going. Alright, one of the things you want to do is look for birds. You'll see the birds diving, and what they're diving for is the bait you're trying to catch. So there's plenty of birds around, so we know there's bait around. And as you can see, if you can see them, plenty of bait. You see how the water is starting to boil? That's what you want to see. So that's the tips and tricks this week, how to catch bait. You can always use a sabiki also if you don't have a cast net, and we'll go over that in a later video. But right now, we want to recap what we were doing. So basically, we were looking at different spots, we were looking at water conditions, we weren't chumming too heavy.
Looking for birds.
We were looking for diving birds, which is a good sign. So start off early too, because as the sun comes up, it'll be harder and harder to find the bait because they'll be buried into the seagrass.
And one thing we didn't do today, a lot of people do sometimes, is put menhaden oil in with your chum. And when you do that, it creates a slick, and then baits can smell from a long ways off. So if you're not confident that you know where bait is in certain spots, just be patient, chum, lay a good chum slick, and just wait it out. If there's bait around, you roll up the water, make a good slick, generally they'll show up.
Yeah. And please, remember, subscribe so you don't miss these tips and tricks, and Friday, the fishing report's coming out. Talk to you soon. Thank you.